What is going on, guys? Paul Ryan back at it again. I hope everybody's having a good night. A lot of Cowboys activity here lately the last couple of days. Most importantly, number one today, Tyron Smith calling it quits. Calling it quits after 14 years in the NFL. Hate to see him leave the game, man, and but love everything that he did during his time for the Cowboys. Franchise left tackle, first ballot Hall of Famer. Just so many accolades, so many things that positives to be associated with Tyron Smith during his time with the Cowboys. My only regret for his career is that, of course, that he didn't get a Super Bowl. But man, I wish that he would have finished his last year played in the NFL would have been with the Cowboys. But that's not how things usually go. There's not a happy ending to every story. But again, kudos to Tyron Smith for deciding to leave the game. But thank you to Tyron Smith for everything that he did during his time here as the Cowboys. And it's kind of fitting that also, not in addition to Tyron Smith, but Zach Martin also calling it quits. I think we talked about that. But for both of them to retire in the same year just kind of makes sense. And you think about all the years that we had Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, and Travis Frederick. That offensive line was really special. And thankfully to those three. And I'm glad to see that they're all getting to leave on their own terms. In addition to Tyron Smith, it was also reported that Stephen Jones was saying that he didn't see a scenario where the Cowboys would trade up. And the reason I bring that up is, there was some thought there that maybe the Cowboys could potentially trade up for Travis Hunter. It seems like that won't be a possibility now, but not saying that the Cowboys won't trade up, but that the Cowboys could trade back. And we know that we've seen them do that, I believe, twice in the last 3 years. We saw them do it last year. And then we saw them do it the year that they drafted Micah, but maybe that was twice in the last 4 years. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But yeah, I'm hoping that could be the case. I know watching all these mock drafts, it always seems like every time they get to the Cowboys, guys like Ted McMillan, Ashton Genty, just players that have been associated with the Cowboys for a couple of months now are always being taken ahead of their pick. And I think even in one of the later mocks, Matthew Golden was taken prior to the Cowboys getting picked. So I think a trade back would be the best scenario. I know that there's been a lot of discussion that Amorion Hampton would be the pick at 12, and thankfully that rumor itself was also nipped in the bud by Brian Broaddus, somebody who's well connected. So no disrespect to Amorion Hampton, great player from what I understand. A lot of people would be excited to have him here, just not at pick 12. And yeah, I know Mike, aka CD Piglet, the greatest co-host in the world, he kind of said it best that this front office has learned from their Zeke mistake, if you want to call it a mistake, but learned that the value of the running back in the first round just doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, of course, you get that extra fifth year. And to have a guy like Ashton Genty here, if you have him here for 5 or 6 years, that'd be amazing. But you really get a lot of better value from picking different positions when you're picking as high as the Cowboys are this year. Again with pick 12, and more often than not, running backs aren't really great value in the first round. But I can see both sides of why a team would take a running back in the first round, but I can also see the side of why there's not great value in making that decision. But yeah, just going back to the Cowboys, it doesn't sound like they're going to be taking one regardless of who there's at pick 12. I know that on our latest show on Sunday, Mike had said that even if Ashton Genty was there at pick 12, that the Cowboys wouldn't take him. So I kind of found that interesting. And there was something, yes, the Cowboys also made two additions to their offensive line, Sadiq Charles and Roy Jones, two guys that when hearing other people talk about them, guys who are film evaluators and know more about the X's and O's and fits and schemes and things like that. It's both of these guys are just depth pieces, veteran bodies, camp bodies, guys. I'm not saying they're not going to make the team, but just kind of guys that are depth pieces. Not sure that they are starters or even backups. They might be third string type of guys, but just kind of fitting to what the Cowboys have been doing this season, going out and adding depth pieces and at a team friendly price, and it's a just low risk, high reward moves, and adding depth at positions where you don't want to go into the season. Here you are at week 7, and all of a sudden you're down to a backup rookie fifth round picks having to start 3 or 4 games because you didn't address those positions either early in the draft or you add guys early in free agency. So Cowboys kind of protecting themselves. I did see when I was just looking up the latest moves that the Cowboys the blurb that I saw was that the Cowboys signed Sadiq Charles and Roy Jones, but also that there was some thought that they could be going after Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle from Texas. They're at Big 12, which that's a name I hadn't heard a lot of. I know that some people that are Cowboys content creators, they talk about him. I haven't mentioned him at 12. I know that when he did his offensive lineman rankings, I don't know if it was his offensive lineman rankings or talking about potential players the Cowboys could draft at pick 12. I believe CD Piglet had Kelvin Banks there in his article. So, just a name to keep an eye out on. I know that there, again, I mentioned earlier that there are in a lot of mocks that players that have been associated with the Cowboys more often than not, again, Ashton Genty and Ted McMillan, that those guys could be wiped out. So when it comes to pick 12, the Cowboys need to have a backup plan. It sounds like Kelvin Banks' name that needs to be added to that list. But outside of that, guys, I do apologize for not keeping you up to date on what's been going on with the Cowboys. It's been a little bit busy, but glad to be back. And want to thank you to everybody who tuned into Monday night's show. It was our last mock draft episode, but shout out to Blake from 105.3 The Fan for coming on and doing an awesome job and sharing some really awesome nuggets from just his player evaluations and from conversations he's had with Brian Broaddus. So I encourage you guys to go check that out. It's a great episode as always. And again, it's our last mock draft of the season. So if you're interested in seeing that, I can't encourage you enough to go watch that. Outside of that, that's all I've got for you guys tonight. As always, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. I'm Paul Ryan. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.